You need to know your story. It doesn't matter what you sell. If you don't have your story, then you're most likely going to fail, because you're going to run into situations where you start making a lot of decisions that don't seem to connect. By having a story, that is your northern star.
Why don't you, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and
Yeah,
what was your job prior to, starting your brand and having your coffee shop,
yeah,
and
yeah,
what
yeah,
and what made you jump into entrepreneurship?
yeah, absolutely. So the business was founded in 1965 by my father's uncle in San Francisco. It was called
Mm,
House of Coffee at the time, and it was
mm,
more of like a European goods store. We sold cheeses and breads, crackers, rose water, and we also roasted coffee, which was unique back in the 1960s because there's no coffee shop per se at that time. My father was born in Lebanon, and his father, my grandfather, owned a bakery. And as part of the culture, as you can relate to in Jordan, you have coffee with your sweets. We call it Armenian coffee. You probably call it Jordanian coffee. Industry calls it Turkish coffee. And a way to entice customers was my grandfather would brew coffee, little Armenian coffee, to get customers to come into the store. But back then, you couldn't just buy roasted coffee. You can't go to like a Costco or something to get the coffee. You actually had to roast it yourself. And so when my dad was 12 or 13, his job was roasting the coffee, which was done on like a pot. Think of it like a wok over a fire. And so when my father emigrated to the United States, he was working as a draftsman for a large HVAC company, and wanted to start his own business. And his uncle was thinking of retiring at this time, so he purchased the business in 1983 from my dad's uncle. I was in kindergarten when that happened. And so I grew up in the business, and I hated it as a kid because my dad would force me to work with him on the weekends. That's because that's all my dad knew. I think he was trying to teach me good work ethic and all that stuff.
mm,
And so I don't have fond memories of the business growing up. I wanted to stay home and watch cartoons and play with my friends. So when I was going off to college, I never thought of taking over the business. I majored in economics and double minored in management and communications, and I worked in corporate finance for 10 years. But my last job was at an insurance company. I managed a team called Insights and Analytics, where we basically told stories about the numbers that we were seeing for the business. And it was a great way for me to kind of understand what the salespeople were telling us, compare it to the data, and then communicate that to the executive team. And it was a
mm.
great way for me to really dilute the information, being able to manage up, as they speak, and manage down. And in 2012, my father was thinking of retiring. He was 70 at the time, I think. And so I was helping him value the business. And, being in corporate finance, that was my forte. Well, around that time, I was reporting to the COO, who got laid off. Not laid off. He technically got fired at the company. And so, Kamel, if you've worked in corporate life, you get your yearly review, your performance review at the end of the year. And I was having a performance review with somebody that has never managed me. And my review was a good. And I've always gotten an excellent as I've worked there. And so it really pissed me off. And I thought to myself, this is the life you chose. This is the politics of working in a corporation. You have been working with your dad on this business that financially is very strong. And at the time, my wife and I, this is in 2012, we were buying a lot of things online. And I thought that I could join the business and potentially grow, the digital aspect of the business.
Mm.
And so on July 1st, 2013, I started my first day with my dad, and never looked back. And I love it. I love it to this day.
I love that. You said 2013 was the date you
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Was the at the time, were you selling it online, or it was just a coffee shop? You guys were doing it locally as a, just like as a vendor
Yeah, my
service.
my dad did have a website. It was a custom website. I think we did maybe 15 orders a month, so it was,
Mm,
basically non-existent. And I think it was built mainly for customers that loved our coffee, that had moved away from San Francisco and wanted an easier way to order coffee, as opposed to, like, calling my
I
dad
see.
an order over the phone thing. So it didn't really do much.
I see. Yeah. Is House of Coffee the brand name?
Good question. So when I joined, I renamed it to Henry's House of Coffee
Mm,
after my dad. And the whole vision, the mission statement that I had when I joined the business was I wanted to I wanted people to feel like this wasn't just a coffee shop or a coffee roaster, but a family run business that was created by the Kolebjian family. And Henry, being my dad, wanted to honor all of the work that he had done for the last 30 years. So I rebranded it.
I love it. And how does your coffee is different from like other coffees?
Yeah.
Like how does your dad, make it or roast it, or what is the difference between it and regular coffee?
Yeah, to answer that question, I will give you some background on the history of coffee. I would say probably from the early '80s and before, coffee was roasted. I would say like a light to a medium roast, and you had only one or two dark roasts, and the name of those dark roasts was called a French roast.
Mm,
And so if you were to look at old pictures of our shop, a lot of the bins were roasted light, and then we had one bin that was a dark roast. Then Starbucks comes along with this concept of a third place, emulating the coffee from Italy, which is all roasted dark. And so the industry starts shifting to a dark roast, rich, robust, bold. These are the kinds of words that you hear. And then in the 2000s, it shifts again to the concept or the idea that the coffee itself is a cherry. It's the seed of a cherry. And they wanted to respect the flavors that this coffee bean had as a result of the cherry. And the coffee roasters in the 2000s up until now are not roasting it dark at all. They don't even call it a light roast or a dark roast. That's kind of like an old term. But all of the coffees are to pronounce the flavors that you will get from the coffee cherry. And so if you think about what a cherry tastes like, it's going to taste sweet, it's going to taste sour, it's going to taste acidic. And so if you grew up drinking coffee before 2000s, you were drinking something that was dark, rich, more nutty, more chocolatey. But nowadays, if you drink it, it's going to taste like tea and you're not going to enjoy it. So I had to make a decision when I was working in 2013 of what I want to be, what's my brand. And it was a big struggle. But one of the things that is my Northern Star here is emulating and honoring my father and my father's grandfather. And their roasting style is a traditional dark roast. And so if you were to ask me, what differentiates you from a coffee perspective, we have the best dark roast that you can have. And what I mean by best is it doesn't have that burnt taste. It doesn't taste like charcoal at the end. The number one comment that we get from customers is, oh my gosh, I can actually drink this without putting milk or sugar in it because I'm so used to doing that with the dark roast. So when it comes to the product itself, that's our forte.
I love it. And your dad started roasting it local, like in the coffee shop.
Yeah, I mean we've been roasting locally in the coffee shop since 1965. That was
Wow.
how it all started. Yeah, it was a small little drum roaster. I think it did about 6 pounds at a time. And then in 1983, I think we did about a new roaster. It was like 11, 12 pounds. And now it's a 22-pound coffee roaster.
Nice. And do you have your own supplier for the coffee beans?
Correct. Yeah, we've again, a lot of this is relationships over the past 50 plus years. So there's a coffee importer locally called Royal Coffee. The son now runs the business just like I did, and his father and my father have been working with each other since the 1980s. So I continue that relationship with them.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you work with a one supplier that's been supplying your business
Yes.
with coffee beans. Is he in the Middle East, or are they where are they located?
Yeah, they're located in Oakland, California, which is about 40 minutes away from us, and they get coffees from all over the world. So they have
I
relationships
see.
with the coffee farms and the producers. Yeah.
Got it. Nice. And let's see here. How many different types of product do you have?
If you were to take a look at all the different coffees that we offer between a light roast and a dark roast or blends, we probably have 25 different types of coffee, which is a lot. Like when I first started working with my dad, I think we had like 40, which again, coming into the business, trying to streamline it, make it easy. I'm of the theory that less is more. And so we've whittled it down to 25 now.
Nice. And are they all like the same coffee bean? Is just different roasting like procedure, or is it different? You're dealing with different coffee beans,
Yeah, it's a
different
mix of both.
flavored
Yeah, a mix of both. Different
mix.
coffee from all over the world, plus different roasts, plus blends. So to give you an example, we have a coffee from Colombia. We roast it light. We also roast it dark, but we also use the coffee from Colombia in other blends. So you get a lot of different varieties shopping with it.
Yeah, I don't know much about like coffee blends. Is that like you mix different coffee beans together or different roasts together? Is that how it works? Is it like
Correct.
a recipe?
Exactly. Yeah, and you can do it two ways. You can blend it before you roast it. We call that a pre-roast,
Mm,
or you can do it. You can blend it after you roast it, which we call a post roast. And
mm,
so, you can have a multiple of different varieties. A lot of what we've done here is based on my dad's experience. And again, like I mentioned, I've taken a lot of the coffees that are probably not top sellers or don't sell as much and kind of slowly started to remove those. And we've got the core right now on our site.
nice. In my country we use cardamom with coffee. It's like
Yep.
very
Hal,
popular.
hal, right? You speak Arabic, Kamel?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we call that
Hadjer.
hal. Yeah, yep,
Yeah. Do
that's
you
right.
use that at all with
We
any of
used
your
to.
blends?
Yes, we used to. So, just like I mentioned, you drink Jordanian coffee. If you're in
Yeah,
Lebanon, they call it Lebanese coffee. And certain
yeah,
parts of the world, like in Jordan, they prefer the cardamom in their head. We used
yeah,
to offer that, but again, I think that was a product that probably wasn't in the top, 20% of what we were selling. But we still sell uh,
yeah.
Lebanese coffee, but without the cardamom.
Yeah, no, definitely it has an acquired taste, so you have to,
Yeah,
serve your customers.
that's right.
Now I would like to bring it back to kind of how someone who is like building a new coffee. And when did you first launch on Amazon, by the way?
I want to say we probably launched in 2019, if I guess.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I want to bring it back to for someone who's starting new, for
Yep.
someone who's just beginning to, maybe someone who similar to you who has a coffee shop, or maybe they don't have a coffee shop, but they have a passion for coffee. Maybe they roast them at home. Maybe, they have a little vendor at a farmer's market where they do their own coffee and they want to, take it to another level.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the steps that someone would take to build this business from the
Hmm.
startup. So one of the things that I would like to ask is, obviously the recipe is that's going to be like your secret recipe, or like this is what differentiates you. That's your recipe, right? We're not going to talk about that, but I want to talk about like if you found the right supplier through relationship. If someone, let's say for example, if someone doesn't know where to find suppliers for coffee beans and they want to, find their own coffee bean, where's a good place for them to start, and how do you go around that?
Yeah. Well, I think the challenge if you want to start your own coffee business, number one, I don't want to give away too many secrets. I'll be honest right off the bat. But the challenge you're going to run into is you need a lot of capital to start a business, uh, whether it's coffee or not. If we're talking about the supplier specifically, the industry has changed a lot. Where now there's a ton of coffee suppliers all over the United States and the world where you can get some. In the past, you had to buy a minimum of like 2,000 pounds of raw coffee to even have a conversation. Um,
Mm,
but if you wanted to start playing around and if we're talking about roasting coffee in your kitchen, then there's a company called Sweet Maria's, and their entire business is built on selling small quantities of raw coffee to suppliers that like to roast their own coffee.
oh, okay, nice.
Have to. Yeah, so you could go to sweetmarias.com. You can buy like half a pound of coffee and start roasting, and with a minimum investment, you can buy raw coffee. But the other problem you're going to run into is you're going to need a way to roast it.
Mm,
And if you don't have a sample roaster, which costs $8,000, then you're probably going to use like what they call like a popcorn machine, or like my dad used to do. use a pan. The challenge with that is you're not going to have a consistent roast profile if you do it that way. And so there's a lot of kind of initial issues that you're going to run into. You could probably buy a used sample roaster, but again, the demand is so high right now, you're probably still going to pay $5,000-6,000 for a sample roaster, even if it's used. And even doing it in your house, you probably want to do it in your backyard, because there's a lot of smoke that comes out, and you don't want your smoke alarm going off.
Were you selling the packets of coffee prior to launching? Because you said you were selling online, so you guys were packaging your product and selling it to customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. The first year that I started, which was 2013, we actually launched the website in 2014, and I can speak a lot about that. You know, the startup costs and the branding and all that stuff. So we had been selling online for about 5 years before we before we added Amazon as a channel.
And the reason I ask, I wanna talk to you about how did you design the package for your coffee beans?
I get that question a lot, and your initial question is, how does somebody get started? My answer is, there's a lot of boring work that you have to do before you do all of the fun work. And what I mean by boring work is, you need to know your story. It doesn't matter what you sell. It could be shoes, it could be coffee, it could be a service. If you don't have your story, then you're most likely going to fail, because you're going to run into situations where you start making a lot of decisions that don't seem to connect. Okay, and by having a story, that is your Northern Star. What do I mean by that? I spent like 3 months thinking about what sets us apart, why Henry's, what's different about us, who's my customer, what do I want the customer to know about me, how did the business start, right? All of that, if you need to have it down. And specifically, you need to be able to tell that story in about 20 seconds. So for me, that would be, Henry's House of Coffee is a 3rd generation coffee roaster in San Francisco. Very sweet, very clean, and short. There's a lot more to that if I want to, but that drives every single thing that we do. So when you're meeting with the product designer, to answer your question, the product designer needs to get into your head to understand what to design. And so if you tell the story to your product designer, you tell them what the product, what you're about, the story, how it was founded, what you enjoy, the benefits, all that stuff, then the product designer can start taking your brain and designing. I'm not a designer. So my philosophy is, I don't pick colors, I don't pick fonts, I don't pick logos. That's what the product designer is supposed to do. But I need to give the product designer all of my information in my head for them to decide. And then what that means is, as an example, if I'm a 3rd generation coffee roaster, well, that probably means we've been around for a long time. It means we're more historical, more traditional, more classic. So we're not going to pick bright colors. We're not going to pick crazy fonts, right? So by telling that story and giving the information, it's up to the product designer to show me my story, my text into an image. And that's why I always laugh when a product designer says, I will give you 7 logos. I don't want 7 logos. I want 1 logo. If you're giving me 7 logos, then I haven't done giving you the right information that you're giving me 7 logos. You should be able to give me 1 logo. That conversation, that relationship that I'm building with the designer should take me 2 weeks before we even have a logo. So what did that mean for me? I actually walked around the store with my designer. Him and I walked around the mall, and we looked at products that I thought told a similar story as mine. We looked at buildings. We looked at a lot of labels. Before I gave him any colors and fonts, we were spending 2 weeks together explaining what the hell is my mission, my story, and all that. And so when he gave me his first iteration, it was like 90% done, because I had done a good enough job to explain it. So that's boring though, Kamel, right? It's not fun. You're not like, looking at colors and font. Boring is you're sitting at your desk and you're just thinking and you're writing down, and you might go on a walk, right? You have to do that before you even start thinking about product costs and channels and Shopify versus WooCommerce. None of that stuff is going to help you if you don't have this base.
Yes, I agree. And what you're talking about is high level branding and brand identity, and it would be amazing if most people can afford that. But initially, we try to look for affordable ways. We teach people how to find affordable ways to create a brand identity, and it kind of allows them to just kind of kickstart their brand or idea. And eventually, if the business does well, they can go into what you just described, which is really, pay. If you don't mind me asking, how much did that cost to get your brand identity and build all that?
$15,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like you paid a professional marketing agency to design your brand identity.
Yep.
So, and I admire that. Obviously, like everyone dreams to get to that point. But someone who's like saving few $1,000s who want to start an entire brand, and this is like what we coach here. We help people start a business with $5,000 to $10,000, maybe
Yep.
less even.
Yep.
And we've helped several people grow that into a multi six-figure or seven-figure business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Kamel, you can I totally am aligned with your strategy, because what I just mentioned, the boring part, that's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you don't have to pay somebody $15,000 like I did to get to 100%. You could go on to Fiverr or Upwork and you can get, 70% of kind of where you're going, but it's going to save you a lot of time if you do your homework first. And the success is not in the designer. The success is in you really knowing what you want, spending that time thinking about it, writing it down, conversing, and then handing that over to someone on Fiverr or Upwork for $500 to kind of get started.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. So I see that you also put here that you buy, you get your barcodes from GS1, right?
Yeah.
And you pay $100 a year for that. That's very typical, for
Yep.
our audience. We guide them
Yep.
to go to GS1 to get your barcodes from there. And let me see here. So when you ordered an order for Amazon, like when you decided you're like, I'm gonna go online, I'm gonna turn this into an online product that's gonna sell outside of the coffee shop. How many units did you order from your supplier? Or not how many units? You probably did you do the packaging yourself?
Correct. Yeah. We do the so for coffee, the biggest direct cost is the bag of coffee. And I think that's a challenge when you're trying to start off, because most suppliers, you need to order thousands and thousands of bags. So, as I mentioned, we launched our website in 2014, and I wasn't doing any sales on Amazon. It was more of my direct website. And so because we were selling coffee in our shop in terms of bags of coffee, excuse me, we already had a supplier. And the minimum order quantity with these suppliers is 25,000 bags. You can imagine
25,000 bags.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, since we've started, so for me, it wasn't like a big change because we were using the same bags. But if you were starting off and you're looking for custom bags, whether it's coffee, CBD, or whatever, there's a lot out there. And one of them that's really good is called Roaster, ROASTER.com. You can do short runs. You can order 100 bags. Each bag will cost you $3, but you're spending $300 as opposed to $7,000. So that'll give you a nice kind of cheap way to get started and look super professional, good quality bags with shorter runs.
And if you don't mind me asking you here, so obviously here you're putting COGS, total COGS. Did I do this correctly?
Did you see that Google sheet that I sent you guys?
I did. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now, actually, and I wanted to ask you. So you put total COGS was $8,000 in 2021. You want to help me just break down that a little bit? Is that the cost of the beans plus the packaging?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep, cost of beans and packaging.
And that gives you 25,000 bags?
No. 25 with Amazon. we had to change our strategy a little bit to compete with other coffee roasters. And other coffee roasters, which, I mean, you could argue, is it fair or not? They don't sell you a pound of coffee anymore. Some sell you a 3/4 of a pound or 12 ounces. Some even sell a 10-ounce bag. And so they play this game where it looks like the price looks like it's the same as a pound of coffee, but it's actually 3/4 of a pound. So I didn't want to sell a full pound on Amazon because then I would have to raise my prices.
Mm.
So we had to actually purchase custom bags that were 12 ounces so that we could compete at the same price point with some of the other coffee roasters. So the 25,000 that I mentioned, that was the bags that we were selling in my store and on our website. But if we're talking strictly about Amazon, then the cost is completely different because it's much lower runs, and we were that company that I mentioned, Roastar, to purchase that coffee.
I see. Okay. So how many were you making out of the 8,000? How many bags was that for?
I think in 2021, I have to look at.
Does the sheet show that?
No, I think if I look at the, I'm just opening it up right now. You can see the number of units up at the top. So we sold 2,600 bags.
That's how much you sold, or that's how much you ordered?
That's how much we sold on Amazon for the whole year.
I see. Okay.
Yes. And in terms of order, I probably ordered, is my guess, probably about 3,000 bags. That's my guess.
3,000.
Yeah, it's been
Okay,
sold.
that helps. Just to give, we're trying to get the numbers here. And if you don't mind me asking, how much was it to ship from the warehouse to? Did you ship straight from the supplier to Amazon, or did you ship it to yourself first and then ship it to Amazon?
Yeah, so because we're a coffee roaster, we manufacture the coffee. So the logistics is we order the coffee bags from the manufacturer, they ship it to our store. We roast the coffee, we manually pack the bags, we seal them, and then we ship it to Amazon. And when we ship to Amazon, you know, again, because this is not a big part of my business, we're probably sending Amazon, I don't know, 200 units a month, something like that.
Right.
And so we do boxes of 30 bags. So I'm trying to think what a box of 30 bags costs for shipping. Probably like $20, maybe.
I think you put $20 per shipment.
Yeah.
Will it be fair to say 20 times 12 for the whole year?
It would be $20. It's $20 per box. So if we're sending 200 bags a month divided by 30, I'll tell you exactly how many boxes that is. So we're doing about, let's say, 7 boxes a month at $20. That's $140 we're spending on shipping
a month.
Yeah.
So if you multiply that by 12, you're paying $1,680 a year.
Yep.
To ship it. Okay.
Just to ship it to Amazon.
Just to ship it to Amazon. And so you're ordering the packages from roast to you, and you're getting the beans from your supplier, you're roasting them, you're packaging them, and you're packing them and sending them to Amazon.
That's right.
Does the 8,000 include the packaging and the beans, if I'm not mistaken? Okay, and it makes you about 3,000. Okay, that's great. And you're shipping on land, right? Because it's all happening in the US.
Correct.
So you're using a truck to ship here.
Yeah, I think they use UPS as our preferred partner. So, UPS comes and picks up the shipment and sends it to Amazon.
So I'm looking here at year one. So it says 49,000 net sales.
Yep.
Let's look at the sales numbers. Okay, so sales numbers of year one, 49,000. After all the cost, that's 2,600, almost 2,600 units. After all the Amazon fees and all the other fees, you're left with 9,663 of net profit for year one selling on Amazon, which is not bad. This is great, like extra revenue that you're making on Amazon. And are you doing any marketing or PPC marketing or anything? Because this is without the marketing cost.
I'm not sure what sheet you're looking at, but if you look at the one that I sent you on row 26, you can see there's advertising expense in there. If you want to
I can see that. Yeah, yours is a bit different. So it's showing me net sales 49,000. So when you subtract all the expenses are 31,000 after the selling fee, the promos, the FBA fee, the advertising, and all that. You
Yeah.
take away 31,000, so you're left with gross profit of 10,000. Is
Yep,
that
that's right.
correct?
Yeah. So there is advertising in there. You can see that we spent
Yeah.
$10,000 that year in advertising.
Yes. So, okay, so our calculator is showing approximately the same number. We showed like 9,900, you know, the ROA. So that's 20% profit. That's pretty good, actually. That's really good. Year two, you guys made $40,000 in net revenue, and after all expenses, you've made 4,300 in gross profit.
Yep.
Okay, so there was a bit less. Do you know what happened there? Why you sold a bit less in the next
Advertising
year?
is just eats away. I've gone through two different ad agencies with Amazon.
I see. Okay.
And I mean, you can see that we just didn't sell as much in 2022, but we also had more advertising. So
Mm.
that's not good. And that's the main reason why profit was down. And then in 2023, I said, I'm going to try it one more time with a different ad agency. We'll throw a lot of money in it. We'll see how it does. Sales went up just a little bit, but we spent even more on advertising. So profit went down even more.
In year three?
In year three, yep.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I see that.
yeah. And so at that point, I said, I don't think Amazon is going to be a really big channel for me when I'm selling coffee, and I'll explain a little bit why I think about that. So I stopped advertising altogether, and I said I have a feeling that I will still sell on Amazon because people are used to buying from Amazon, and the Armenian coffee specifically. Like when you Google it, you're probably going to land on Amazon, and mine's the #1 Armenian coffee on Amazon. So I figured I don't want to spend a penny, and I'm curious if I'll do anything. And you can see I have about $25,000 in sales this year with zero advertising, right? But my profit is $10,000, which is the same as 3 years ago. So
a lot higher.
Yeah. So that's fine. Again, this is like, for me, this is peanut. $1,000 a month in profit is nothing. So it's just kind of there, and it runs itself.
Still, it's showing tremendous improvement from the last few years. I mean, obviously, if you take away the advertising fee, you probably would have been making that much every year. But that's a testimony of a good product that's selling on Amazon, and without any advertising, it's making you $10,000 so far this year. I mean, there's still 2 months left.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So that's pretty good. I think this year you will be 2021. I think your numbers will do better by the end of the year. So that's amazing. Congratulations on that. I mean, at least I think also part of being on Amazon is, it gives you a brand identity, and it gives you a presence. People usually go on Amazon immediately to see like, oh, is this brand on Amazon?
Yep.
So even if it's 10,000 a month, it's still a good strategy to be there. And I think the more sales you get, the more it's going to grow gradually.
Yeah, like I said, I think for some customers, it's just an easy way for them to order as they're adding other stuff on Amazon. And I do find that customers that purchase directly from my website, they will during conversations tell me that they bought on Amazon too, when they're adding a laundry detergent or whatever, and that's fine. It's fine. But I would prefer more customers buy directly from my website, because that's my opportunity to kind of retarget them and get them to buy again. So my focus has been the website for the past 5 years, and Amazon's good. It's a very steady, simple dream for me.
And how are the sales on your website compared to Amazon?
Yeah, we do about $60,000 a month in sales on our website. And November, December, because it's seasonal, but November, December, we'll double that. So
That's amazing.
yeah, significant difference between Amazon. Um,
And
and
are the profit margins higher?
yes, because there's
Nice.
no seller fees on Amazon. And not only that, but my argument for selling on my website is uh, I'm able to own the customer data, which I can use
Mm,
to sell back to them.
remarket.
Yeah, whether it's an email, an SMS, or you creating a lookalike audience on Facebook, all that kind of stuff that you can do. Physical mailers that we send out, and so that way I'm able to track the lifetime value of a customer from my website. Where with Amazon, I have no idea. So uh, it's good. I can't complain. I love e-commerce. It's something that I'm very passionate about. Um, it's a great way. Another thing about the website, as opposed to Amazon, is it's a great way for me to tell my story. Amazon
Mm,
has it. You can do video ads and stuff, but with a website, you can have certain type of pop-ups or links where the customer can really engage with the story, which is what I focus on a lot. It's really,
mm.
come out. It's not the product, especially if it comes to coffee. Everybody sells coffee that's good. Everybody's going to tell you it's good quality, Arabica beans, fresh, all that stuff. Everybody has that. But what they don't have is the tradition of family history, the customer service that we're going to provide. And so that website design, the links, the videos, that's kind of the engagement and the user experience that sets us apart.
I love it. And how do you funnel people into the website? Like, what is your strategy on that?
Yeah, well, we have three main categories: cold audiences, warm, and hot. And we have different strategies for those. But with the cold, the best way that we see is through Meta, specifically Facebook and Instagram, targeted more towards an older audience. Because
Mm,
we're a traditional coffee roaster, as I mentioned, we want people that grew up drinking coffee that tastes like coffee and not like tea. And so Facebook specifically is great because, everyone's mom is on Facebook, tend to be older, 50 plus. And so that's kind of how we get those cold customers in. Once they land on the page, we have offers that we can do to get them submit their email, and then that way we can, respond back. The warm customers, we use a lot of email and SMS marketing through Klaviyo to get them to repurchase and remind them that, coffee is great because it's something that is consumable once a month. And so email marketing is perfect for that as reminders.
mm,
And then the hot customers,
mm.
these are the customers that love us. And so we focus primarily on specific emails that we send out, whether it's recipes, random stories that I like to tell that they really enjoy, tips and tricks on coffee, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And so that's kind of the way that we get the customers. But the new customers specifically, it's all about Facebook and Instagram.
And are you doing like video ads on Facebook and Instagram, or is it just content, like organic content that you're shooting at the coffee shop?
Yeah, it's actually a combination of all of that.
Okay.
I have an ad agency that manages our ads, and we are constantly doing testing every 3 weeks on ads. And so the concept is we launch an ad, we split it, we test it. The one that's doing well, we'll keep it. The one that's doing bad, we'll stop it, and then we'll create a new one. We'll test that.
Mm,
And they're constantly competing against each other to see which one is performing well. And I think a metric for your audience, specifically for me, is thinking about how much you're willing to spend to get that new customer. I don't know if a lot of people think about that because it's kind of a hard concept to think about.
mm,
But if you were a hairdresser and you were trying to get people to come to your salon, I would ask you how much would you pay the person walking down the street to come into your store so that you could cut their hair. So if you
mm.
charge $60 to cut hair, would you pay that customer $20 to come inside and cut your hair? I think most people might say that's expensive because they're just thinking about that one-time experience, right? Customer's paying you $60, you gave the customer $20, so you're really only getting 40, and then you got to pay rent, you got to pay yourself, overhead costs. So you might not even make money on that, and you might think like, there's no way I'm paying $20 for that customer. I think what they don't think about is, well, if you cut their hair and they loved it, and you provided great experience during that process, do you think they would come back? Most people would say yes. Well, the second time they come back, are you going to give them $20 again? No, you're probably going to give them nothing. So the second time they come back, it's $60. And so now you've made a little bit of profit. And so the concept when we say lifetime value is we're thinking about how many times has that customer come to your salon over a period of a year. And if you paid $20 to get that customer and they came to your store 5 times, you've turned that $20 into $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So how much are you paying for the ads agency?
So
like every month?
yeah, so I pay the ad agency $2,000 a month.
Okay.
Plus we're advertising about $8,000 a month, depending on the month.
That's for Meta, right?
Yeah. So if we're spending $10,000 a month, I have a number that we need to hit for that to make sense.
Right.
And that number, sometimes you might not know, Kamel. Like if you're starting a new business, you have no idea. So I get that. I have a lot of history, so I know that in a period of 18 months, I will make about $190 from a customer in 18 months.
Yeah.
So if it costs me $50 to get that customer, I know that in 18 months, I will get almost 4x back. But if it costs me $100 to get that customer, now it's going to take me a lot longer to get that, right? So for me, the magic number is $50. We need to be at $50 or less for me to tell my ad agency that they're doing a good job. And it makes it very easy. I don't care about clicks. I don't care about sessions. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. You guys do all of your testing, all your fancy stuff, and at the end of the month, where did we land? For me, it's very simple. And if we can't repeat, then I got to find somebody else.
Yeah, nice. Oh, I like it. So we are coming up close to the hour, so I don't want to keep you any longer. I would like to end this on 3 maybe costly mistakes that you have made in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That that you wish you would have done it differently, or anything that you can share with us will be great.
Yeah. Costly mistake number 1 is not getting enough bids on a specific project. So if it's somebody that wants to revamp my website, I would say you need at least 4 bids to get a good sense of what it's worth. Just getting one and quickly signing up is not a good idea. Second costly mistake that I specifically did is we tried to launch a new brand in Southern California, actually, Kamel, where you live. And it was around this concept of Lebanese Greek coffee. We spent a lot of money on the product, on the design, and the idea was to sell it in stores, like in supermarkets. But the mistake I made was I didn't invest money on brand ambassadors being at the supermarkets giving out samples. So we got into the supermarkets, but nobody bought it because they didn't know about it, and I wasn't doing a good job of advertising it to them. And if I had to redo it, I would have set aside a budget to hire people to give out samples, and I think that might have helped. So that's mistake number 2.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How much did that mistake cost you?
$15,000.
15,000. Okay.
Yeah. And then mistake number 3 was a free offer that we launched. This was in 2018, I think. We had an offer where we were just giving away a quarter pound of coffee. My idea was there will be people that are going to want to try it. It's free. They got nothing to lose. They can buy it, and then we'll see some return. If I had to redo that, I would not make it 100% free. Like either I would have to add like $5 shipping or
cover the cost at least.
Yeah, and what ended up happening, Kamel, was that link was posted on one of those like free website links. I don't know what it's called, like freecoupons.com or something.
Oh my God.
We got like thousands of orders. There was like the same email address was buying from us like 30 times. That's another mistake, like once per user, right? So that was, I canceled all of it, but mistake that I learned is if you're going to do a free offer, don't make it 100% free. You have to give them some kind of something, and also make it one coupon per user so that people can take advantage.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, how much did that mistake cost you as well?
Yeah. Well, when that we got 1,000 orders in an hour, so it didn't. I canceled all of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it cost me a lot in terms of dollars because we didn't end up shipping them out.
Okay.
More,
From the same
probably,
email.
yeah, probably more. It hurt my my ego more than anything else.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Rag. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. This was great. It was great talking with you. Congratulations on all the success. This is really inspiring, and it's kind of cool. And it got me excited. I'm gonna try your coffee.
Thank you, Kamel, and shukran.
Yeah, afwan. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care.